Welcome aboard to Politics Done Right. Today I have a very exceptional person in the studio, or in his office in my studio. This man is the youngest elected board of trustee for Pearland ISD.
Yeah.
We are very proud of the job that he's doing out there. Welcome aboard, Mikael Floyd. How are you doing today?
Good to be here. Thanks so much, and I really appreciate your words, and really thankful for the work you do. And everyone that comes on here is contributing to the fight and the resistance, and we've got to keep going. So thank you.
Absolutely. So, in the preamble, I also didn't quite say, but you are now the treasurer of the Texas Democratic Party.
Yeah, I'm one of the 5 statewide officers, and so we are doing everything we can to get the state in the right direction. I think we're going to have some great success this year.
I think so too. One of the things that I've been talking about for a long time, Mike, is we needed to have young people come and take over the party, because that is where it's at. We need to have our millennials. In your case, you're below them. What are you?
The Gen
what
Z,
are you called?
They call us.
Gen Z?
No.
Yeah, that is great to know, and I think your leadership. I'm happy to have the kind of leadership that you're bringing, and one of the reasons you're on the show today, and I'm going to want to take it in 2 different places. One, I want to use you as a template of what we have to do throughout Texas, throughout the country, as far as bringing in young people into the party, young people into the progressive movement, and winning. But before we go on to that, let's talk about the matter at hand. I think you are trying to bring up you tried to bring up several proposals at the Pearland ISD board, and you failed because of specific reasons. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our standing board rules down in Pearland, I think this is consistent across the state, requires that for an item to be proposed and then brought forth for consideration on a district agenda, it requires 2 trustees. So if you're in Houston ISD, requires 2 trustees, Pearland ISD, I believe it's the same across the state. Now, we have a 7-member board, which means that you only need 2 out of 7 to get an item on the agenda. Several of the policies that we've been pushing now for almost 2.5 years have failed to even get considered because neither 1 or 2 or 5 or 6 of the board members who have the opportunity to second the item and just bring it for discussion refuse to do so. Now, we have done a lot, and we've been working, and we've actually had a lot of good progressive things happen down there. But the big ticket items, that big structural change that we need to have at our local levels is just almost impossible with these current laws. And so one of the things we tried to do recently, in fact 2 days ago now, was just pass a resolution which condemns white supremacy and simply calls for Congress to go and increase security measures when it comes to guns. I didn't even specify in order to make it easily passable, baseline standard. It also called for investigating our curriculum both at the state and local level to ensure that the history textbooks reflect accurately the atrocities committed by white supremacists in the Deep South and in the country. Unfortunately, that resolution, which I think, again, established a baseline standard for leaders in our society, failed to find a second.
Now, what can we do? I mean, other than making sure that we get an ally elected in the next during the next election, what are you proposing?
Well, so what I want to do is I want the board to realize that their actions, their silence is unacceptable. We already have a lot of people engaged in this story down in Pearland, but I think that there needs to be accountability, and the incumbents who are all on there, who are all relatively good people, need to understand that we're watching, and that they need to step up and have a little bit more gumption and be a little bit bold and brave in this time that our nation really needs, that our communities really need local leaders standing up. So we're asking everyone to come out on Tuesday, August 13th, and come down to Pearland and speak on this issue to make sure that this at least just doesn't get swept under the rug like everything else.
Now, let me ask you now, with regards to personal relationships, do you have personal relationships or cordial relationships with the other 6 board members?
I mean, relatively cordial. I mean, we're all friendly. We work on areas where we agree, and we do so relatively well. We all agreed, actually, this last legislative session to go up to Austin and lobby effectively our legislatures, who are all Republican down in Pearland, to oppose vouchers. And they did, large part because of the 2018 election. Sent a message throughout the system here in Austin. But on certain issues like this issue, this resolution, a lot of them are very offended. They think it's a partisan attack. And I have to be very clear that there's nothing partisan about white supremacy, that both Republicans, Democrats, Independents alike should all be condemning it. And that if you are offended by me condemning white supremacy, then I think there's some soul searching that they have to do on their own.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe that they think it's a personal attack when, in fact, that is one of the things that we try to preach against when it comes to this particular issue. White supremacy has nothing to do with either left or right, because I mean, at some other point, it was on different shoes. Now, let me tell you, having watched you on the board, there is a board in Kansas in a district similar to yours. This one is a college board. Angelina Lawson, she did exactly what you did to get elected in an area that is otherwise very conservative, and she was successful just like you were in doing that. There is a thread that goes through Angelina Lawson and Mikael Floyd in how you attained that. It is something that must be bottled and us move it forward. So what I want to ask you, and then we'll get back a little bit to what we further want to do as far as getting these people to adopt these resolutions. Exactly how do you propose getting other partners, other people with your, not necessarily your ideology, but other people that that are willing to expose issues that need to be exposed on the board? How do you get them to create that mass? I think we attempted to get some elected and didn't do very well the last time.
Well, I think that election was not reflective of the trend, because the trend is that the suburbs are flipping in Texas.
Right.
That they're becoming more, not necessarily progressive, but they're moving away from the far right extremism that has been really centerfold in local politics in the suburbs for a long time. But I think that there's a clear way to go about doing this. To running these campaigns at the local level, you have to establish a base of support. And we all know that voter turnout in these local races is abysmal. It's
very small,
depressingly small. But that also offers an opportunity to really mobilize and get folks out and then actually win these races, even if you may not be in the clear majority when it comes to big ticket elections. And the way to do that is simply to be bold and ambitious and go everywhere. That's what we did. We were non-discriminate when it came to side of town, Republican or Democrat. We didn't even use the voter activation network van, which a lot of progressive campaigns use. We went to every single door. We knocked on, indiscriminately. We went to everybody, whether they were Republican or Democrat, and we pitched them our message, which really wasn't left or right. It was, we got to get this school district functioning again. We need to do everything we can to better the education of our students. We need to have transparency in local government, which is right now in a bad state, not just in Pearland, but across Texas.
The country.
The HISD snafu that they have, right? There needs to be people in public office who actually do the work and do it well. But more importantly, you have to make local politics digestible. And you've got to make it that thing that people want to engage with. Because right now, if you're looking at the national political scene, the school board politics are not at the top of the list by a long shot. But you have to make these issues relatable, and that's all about messaging. And I think if we can just do a better job messaging as progressives, we can win these elections anywhere.
Well, I don't know. I think you probably know this as well. If you don't attach an ideology to a particular set of tenets, you'll find that if you ask people the questions, the things that we consider progressive tenets usually are the things that most people want. The thing about it is, as soon as it has an ideology attached to it, it is where the dysfunction or the where it falls apart. Not falls apart, but people don't necessarily want to do it. And like I said, the way you approached it is similar to the way Angelina approached it in another conservative district, and it worked. And I hope it is something that you're going to be promoting as a leader in your community now with other people. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, what we've been doing since I got elected is actually working with young people across the country. And we've been mobilized. We've been working with people in Denver and in Pasadena, California. We've been working with people up in Connecticut and Iowa to try and get this young movement going across the country. And that was before the real activism started post-Parkland. And so you just seen that increase. Run for Something has done a wonderful job as well, one of our partners in that fight.
I think that is so important, and that is I'm so happy to hear that, because that is something that we've been yearning for quite a while. Getting the young people together. I was out there at the movement last year, right after Parkland in Washington D.C., and it was amazing to see how the young people just came into D.C. and took over. I mean, I have all the faith. I mean, I think it is time. I think it is time. Okay, going back again, real shortly to the event that you're going to have on the 13th. Why don't you again tell us, for those, because in our network people come on and off. So why don't you go ahead and tell us on the 13th what's exactly happening? First of all, tell us why you're having this event on the 13th, and what do you want to accomplish on the 13th?
Well, on the 13th actually is a Pearland ISD school board meeting. So we are meeting at the district facilities on 1928 North Main Street in Pearland at 5 o'clock. So I know it's a tough time for folks to get out, something we've tried to change, and again, been stalled. But we're asking folks to come down there and sign up for 5 minutes to talk to the board about why it's important that we need to pass this resolution just to condemn white supremacy in the least. And I think that we have to send a message to get local leaders to be addressing the issues at hand, and actually provide kind of an assurance to those in our communities at the localist of all levels that we're with them, and that this kind of behavior we're seeing, the kind of rhetoric we've been hearing, is unacceptable.
Now, your town, your district is a very multi-ethnic district, and I think something like that is important for all the people, especially in these times when many particular ethnicities feel that they're under attack.
Well, it's one of the most diverse school districts in Texas. It's also one of the highest performing school districts in Texas. We have a lot of sway in not only Brazoria County, but actually at the state level. So we have to do right by our students. And again, one of the most diverse school districts in the state, we should at least be at a baseline minimum of condemning white supremacy.
To our listeners, this young man, Mikael Floyd, is working very hard, not only at the state level, but at the national level. Let's make sure that we stay in touch, we keep him supported. Mikael Floyd, thank you so kindly for having been with Politcs Done Right. Keep us posted as far as what's going on, and we'll make sure to keep in touch, buddy.
All right, thanks, brother. Thanks for having me.